Hey everyone, so we got an Antutu benchmark comparison here between all the major phones that come out within the past year. So that includes in the bottom left corner here the OnePlus 3, the OnePlus 3T, the HTC 10, the HTC U Ultra, the LG G5, the LG V20, the LG G6. In the top left corner there, you got the iPhone SE, the iPhone 7, the iPhone 7 Plus, Sony Xperia XZ Performance, Xperia XZ, Google Pixel XL, and Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge. Alright, so on to the first test here. So we're testing out the graphics on all the phones. You see pretty good colors across most of them. Very vibrant displays. Now some of them, as you guys can tell, especially in the bottom left corner there, you see that they have kind of white aspects to them. Now I'm not quite sure why this is the case, but apparently it does not affect the score. Some of the Android phones there. Now you guys see really smooth for all the phones. Not really noticing any drops in any of the frame rate. If you guys test out the mid-rangers, as you guys are seeing some of my other videos, definitely a lot of frame rate drops there. But here, very smooth for everything. Alright, so moving on to the next test. And all of them pretty close so far in terms of speed. Looks like the iPhone's a little bit out in front. LG 6 was pretty fast there as well. So on to our second comparison here, second graphics comparison, we got a garden. And again, very smooth across the board, not noticing any frame rate drops. And this time we don't have that weird white glitch like we had for the last one, for the last game that was tested. Or I guess, not really a game, but graphics that we were testing. So in the past, I've run this Antutu benchmark for most of the phones you see here. With the HTC U Ultra and G6 is the first time I'm doing a video test for them. Alright, so that concludes both of the graphical tests. Going over some of the specs for the phones. So with the iPhone SE, you got 2 GB of RAM, A9 chipset. That one is based on iPhone 6s, which came out the prior year. So a little bit older specs for that. For the iPhone 7, 7 Plus, you got the A10 chipset, 2 GB of RAM for the 7, 3 for the 7 Plus. Now, some of these phones are a little bit older, came out beginning of last year. So a lot of them have the Snapdragon 820 rather than 821. In terms of Snapdragon 820 phones, so you got the HTC 10, you got the LG G5, you got the LG V20, you got the OnePlus 3, you've got the Sony Xperia XZ Performance, the Xperia XZ, and the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge. And most of those have 4 GB of RAM. There's some exceptions. The Xperia XZ Performance has 3, as well as the XZ. And then also the OnePlus 3 has 6. And then for Snapdragon 21 phones, so you got the HTC U Ultra, Snapdragon 21 and 4 GB RAM for that. And you got the LG 6. So again, same thing, Snapdragon 21 and 4 GB RAM. You got the Google Pixel XL, same thing, Snapdragon 21, 4 GB RAM. And finally, you got the 3T, which on paper has the best specs. You got the Snapdragon 21 and 6 GB RAM. Alright, so it looks like we're around 2/3 done with the test here. With the iPhones a little bit out in front. But obviously, completion time doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to get the best score. And generally, the iPhones do very well in these tests. And as I mentioned in some of my other videos, guys, I'm really loving LG 6. It's an incredible phone. Definitely one of my all-time favorites. Alright, so we're going to start flipping some of these phones over as they approach 100%. Just want to keep it suspenseful for you guys. Just want to make it a little bit more interesting. So we're going to do a final tally at the end. We're going to go in order from worst score to best. So yeah, you see the 3 iPhones already done. Alright guys, and just flipping over some of these phones just to make it a little bit more suspenseful. And we'll go over the results in a minute. Alright everyone, so on to the results. Coming in last place, not surprising here, a score of 125,000 for the iPhone SE. Again, it has an A9 chipset and 2GB RAM. Coming in 13th place, we have the HTC 10. Again, was one of the earlier phones from last year, Snapdragon 20 and 4GB RAM. Coming in 12th place, and a bit surprising, we got the Google Pixel XL, 144,000. Again, this does have the Snapdragon 21 and 4GB RAM. I just don't think that's fully optimized. Next up, we got 11th place. We got the Sony Xperia XZ Benchmark, a score of 147,420, Snapdragon 20 and 3GB RAM for the XZ Benchmark. Next, slightly above that, we've got the LG 5, a score of 147,568. Next up, in 9th place, we've got one of the phones with 6GB of RAM. We've got the OnePlus 3, a score of 147,591. Coming in 8th place, we've got the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge. And you see there a score of 148,932. Again, Snapdragon 20 and 4GB of RAM for the Galaxy S7 Edge. So now we're moving on to the top 7. And we got the Sony Xperia XZ in 7th place. Score of 149,856. Snapdragon 20 and 3GB of RAM for the Sony Xperia XZ. In 6th place is the LG V20. 150,034. Snapdragon 20 and 4GB of RAM for the LG V20. Now on to the top 5. And here we got a 2017 phone. We've got the HTC U Ultra, a score of 150,579. So Snapdragon 21 and 4GB of RAM for the HTC U Ultra. Coming in 4th place and very impressive score here. We've got 157,024 for the LG 6. And again, it has Snapdragon 821 and 4GB of RAM as well. Another 2017 phone. On to the top 3. In 3rd place, we got the OnePlus 3T, 165,967. Here's a look more in depth for the 3T. Again, with this Snapdragon 21 and 6GB of RAM. Extremely impressive score here, one of the phones that came out end of 2016. Alright, so now top 2, you guys know what they are. Coming in 2nd place is the iPhone 7, score of 179,021, 2GB of RAM, A10 chipset. And as I'm sure you guys know, coming in 1st place, you got the iPhone 7 Plus. Obviously, an extremely impressive score here for the 7 Plus, 185,365. Now, I know some people say that Antutu is more optimized for iOS and Android. Not quite sure if that's true, but regardless, we do have the iPhone 7 Plus coming in 1st and 2nd place. And then in terms of Android phones, so 3T pretty clearly 1st place there. Let me just show you how that looks, just in the rankings. So this is how Antutu lists out the rankings. You see 3T 3rd place. So actually very similar results to what we actually got in this test. And you see that their version of 3T listed right there. So our version right above it. And then I'll also show you on the G6. So again, with G6 we had 157,000. And let me just show you the rankings. So yeah, you guys see there, just right behind the 3T and the iPhones. So pretty clearly, 1 and 2 for Android are these two phones. And I expect some of those upcoming phones like the Galaxy S8 may overtake these phones with the Snapdragon 835. Same with the Sony Xperia XZ Premium, will probably overtake them as well. So guys, subscribe to check that out in the future. We'll be having a lot more comparisons in the future. And if you guys want, check out the channel right now for more LG 6 videos as well as all the other phones you see here.